Hey everybody, it's Joe from Gadgetry Tech, and in today's video, I'm going to talk about two more affordable headsets from Razer. A while back, I reviewed the V3 Pro, but they also launched two other models, the V3, which retails for $150, and the V3X, which retails for only $99. They actually have a couple things in common, including battery life, which interestingly enough, even though it's not RGB, they do have a variance in battery life depending on how you're using it. You can get up to 70 hours of battery life on PC, which is pretty commendable, at least at this price range. And then the battery life goes down to 35 hours if you're using Bluetooth and the 2.4 connection. On the note of Bluetooth, the $150 model actually has simultaneous Bluetooth, and the X has basically a multi-switch, so you can toggle from Bluetooth to the 2.4 connection, but not both at the same time. They have comparable platform compatibility as well, because both of these do come in an Xbox version, and you can basically, depending on which one you buy, the Xbox version basically working on everything, but the new BlackShark lineup works on all platforms, including PC, Switch, mobile, thanks to Bluetooth. It works on Xbox, of course, it works on Mac. And what's cool enough is both of these also work as a wired USB headset. So if for any reason your headset's dead or you lost the transmitter, it will still double as a wired gaming headset. Both of these were sent to me for review by Razer. It never affects what I say about it, but I do want to disclose that. And I don't do any special kickbacks, and they did not pay me to make this review. Before I get any further though, I want to thank today's sponsor, Final Audio. Final Audio just came out with a new wireless earbud called the Tonalite. At first glance, it looks like another premium wireless earbud, but this is Final's first product offering personalized timbre optimization. Microphones built inside the tip help with ANC and also with approximating your ear canal depth, which works in tandem of a full head scan and ear scan to create custom audio profiles. They also give you a 10-band EQ for further tweaking, and the entire product is covered in a textured finish, which looks and feels crazy premium. It's available now for a short launch window on Kickstarter prior to shipping, and I'll have links in the description below to check them out. I do my best to include a chapter called Too Long Didn't Watch because I want to respect your time, and this may not be the headset for everyone, or headsets in this case. The V3X, just to summarize, is an incredible value. It's actually one of the best values at $100 because although the sound tuning isn't quite as good as some of the HyperX models out there, it's closer to the HyperX than most others, and I think overall it's one of the best out-of-the-box sound signatures you can get, even though it's not perfect. The microphone quality is definitely class leading at $100. The mic is insane. The comfort's actually really good as well. And then it has a load of features like onboard EQ, chat mix, Bluetooth, USB-C connection fallback, and then the multi-platform support, including Xbox. So it's really hard to fault anything for $100 for what you get with the X. Now the V3 at surface level isn't much more of a headset. It has a similar sound signature, slightly different, but overall comparable. It has a couple upgrades like the volume knob, but it also brings simultaneous Bluetooth and more features on the Razer Synops side, which not everyone's going to use Razer Synops, but you still get a good mic. There's just more features if you like to tinker with things. If you just want to plug and play and not mess with it too much, the X is overall a better value, but at $150 to get simultaneous Bluetooth, that's one of the only ones in this price range to do that. As far as what's included in the box, it's pretty straightforward. You get two cables with the V3X because the transmitter is so compact. This guy is crazy small. And this is really nice if you're also into handheld gaming or you want the portability, whether you have a Switch 2 or a Legion Go, for example. So it's nice that it's this compact because it won't tie up any adjacent USB ports. That'll come in handy if you're on a MacBook or a laptop, for example. But because this is a USB-C transmitter, if you have an Xbox, Xbox doesn't have a USB-C, it only has Type A. So it also comes with a cable in the box that will give you a Type A plug to your console or computer if you just want to extend where this transmitter is plugged in. And then you can just plug the transmitter in. Won't matter what direction you plug it in because USB-C doesn't care. So it's nice that that's included and to be expected. And then of course you get a USB A to C cable to charge your headset and use this as a wired headset if you like as well. The cable is slightly upgraded on the $150 V3 because you have a new braided cable, which feels a lot more premium. It's not necessarily going to perform any better. It's still just a cable at the end of the day. But when you're getting $50 more of a headset, part of that is the accessories. You also get this external USB-C transmitter. This is the HyperSpeed transmitter, which has the improved latency performance if that's what you're chasing. This does cost a little bit more to develop, and if you're chasing the ultimate low latency performance on a wireless headset, Razer claims to have the fastest one. I haven't been able to independently test and validate this yet, although I am working on building some equipment to do this. For now, I can only say what they say and just report that I don't have any perceivable latency whatsoever. It doesn't seem like it's holding me back in any way. Now, the transmitter itself has a female USB-C port, so the included cable kind of doubles as 2 parts here. I think it would have been cool to have 2 cables in the box. Mine only came with 1, so I'm plugging this into the transmitter to basically use it as a wireless connection. And when I need to charge my headset, I unplug the transmitter, plug this into the headset itself, and then use that. Obviously, I can use it as a wired headset at the same time, but this one cable is serving both. When it comes to build quality and comfort, Razer has a very strong design language with the BlackShark series, and it's no different with their less expensive stuff. Now, they've had BlackSharks out for a long time. Even the V2 just had a refresh with the 2023 edition. Now we have the V3. So when you look at the V3X, which is the least expensive, and the V3, they look very similar on the outside. Some of the differences happen on the headband. You still have a really plush, very comfortable headband on the V3X, especially at $100. I think the headband and overall feel is immense. It doesn't feel like a cheap headset. The mid-tier V3, V3 has a sport fabric material. It's just a little bit more breathable, more durable, and I think it adds to a more premium look. Now, when you step up into the V3 Pro, you still get that really nice, comfortable headband. I mean, you can just see that it looks and feels like a quality headband. And then it has a stitched leatherette outer. So again, it just looks a little bit more premium. As far as sizing goes to fit your head, both of these use the older chassis as far as I know, like the older V3 or V2 models, because these posts are thinner. When you look at the V3 Pro, the newer one, it has a thicker post and it feels heavier and more premium. And you also get a rotatable yoke. So this is the only one where it actually pivots to conform to your head better. And this is a huge comfort increase. So if you are basically open to paying significantly more money just because you're chasing better comfort, there is something to be said about what the V3 Pro is offering. It's not that these are bad. These are still very comfortable to me. But one of the drawbacks I have with the V3 and the V3X is these don't rotate. Instead, it relies on a little bit of flex right here on the headband itself. This is kind of a thinner metal inside, so it does allow a little bit of rotation, but it's literally through flex, and because of that, it's not always going to fit every single head well. If it fits the way your head is shaped, this is going to be incredibly comfortable because the headband design and this pad material. Now, the pad material is a slightly more breathable sport fabric for what touches your ear. Then it has a leatherette outer and a leatherette inner. This helps balance some breathability, but you still get good bass response and passive noise isolation. However, I will point out that the pad depth on the V3, the mid-tier, is more shallow than the V3X by a couple millimeters, and because of that, I actually found the less expensive V3X to be more comfortable. BlackShark historically, with this BlackShark lineup, has had more shallow pads because they do something called a padded baffle. So like this part right here typically has a cushion on it. On the less expensive model, there's no cushion, so the fact that it's a thicker pad helps a little bit. On this one, you do get some of a cushion here, so even though it is more shallow, your ears are going to touch the baffle, or at least some of your ears can, but it's not hitting a hard surface. When you go on the new Pro, this has a thicker pad, but on top of it, you get even more depth. So again, aside from this being noticeably heavier than these two, I find the ear pad volume and overall comfort to be better, in addition to having the rotation. So like I said, you are getting a few upgrades on the comfort side. It's not just like, you know, thicker posts and fancier looking materials. As far as clamp force goes, these are in the moderate tier of clamp force. And when you factor in the lighter chassis weight, overall it is a pretty good headset to wear for a longer period of time. Even though it doesn't have a suspension strap and the most open pads, I guess, for breathability, they're still quite good, and I can and have gamed on them for many hours at a time. Now, I am going to be announcing on a video soon a new clamp force measurement rig that was designed and built by Capra Audio. He and I have kind of collaborated on this for quite a while because this has been a passion project of mine. So there's a new standard rig that's going to be sold now, and I'll have a link in the description if you're crazy enough to buy a clamp force rig for yourself. However, the numbers on this new rig are going to be slightly different than before because the new rig is physically a little bit larger and it's more accurate to an average human head size. I don't want to discredit the work I did before, but when you change rigs, the numbers are going to be quite different because this is physically bigger, which means clamp force will always be higher. So I'm posting the numbers of the clamp force of these three models, but also two others that are popular that I've measured in the past, just so you can have a comparative difference on clamp in case you own something like it. Overall, I find the clamp force very good. I think this is a sweet spot of being really secure but not causing too much pressure or discomfort. So I think ergonomically, had they put a rotating knuckle on the yoke for the cheaper models. That would have been the only thing I'd ask for to make it better, and add a few more millimeters of depth on the middle one. Aside from that, I think the overall design does lend itself to be quite a comfortable headset. As far as the layout goes, the less expensive X doesn't have the knobs. So like when you look at the more expensive V3 and the Pro, you get this wonderful volume wheel. And this one feels nice, this one feels nice, this one is missing, and that's just because it's on the left-hand side in the cup. There's a little bit different of a layout here, and as a result, this one has a little bit more cramped buttons. You do have to get used to it, but it's very easy to find the mute if you know it's the first button from the hinge. There's more spacing here, so to me it's easier to feel this out. Aside from that, it's pretty much the same layout. It's just a matter of if you want that larger button. On the right-hand side, you have an adjustable mic side tone wheel. That's its default function, but if you get the Xbox version, this will be set to do your game to chat mix. And on the mid-tier model, you can assign this to do either one. So you also have chat mix on PC, which is nice. And then this is the Bluetooth button. This one combines the power button with your Bluetooth functions because it's not doing it simultaneously. So you can hop from Bluetooth to 2.4 mode seamlessly. It'll do multi-point connection. But the mid-tier option, you can listen to both at the same time, and you have an action button because of that. And on Razer Synapse software, you can actually set it to when Bluetooth is active, it won't reduce game volume, or you can set it to reduce game volume, or you can set it to mute game volume entirely in case you took a call, for example. So it's nice that you have that configurability. And then when you get on the more expensive Pro, it's basically the exact same layout as the less expensive V3. The one extra difference is you have an active noise cancellation button and removable tags here, because check this out. They actually give you a removable battery cover. So the Pro offers a ton of stuff. I think it's nice that it has ANC, onboard EQ, and all of that. So the Pro is definitely going to be the bigger hitter here. I'm not going to focus too much more on it for the rest of the review because honestly, these hold their weight in their own price points against other models.
Now, to give you an example of how good these perform, this is the $100 headset microphone. This is the best microphone you can get for $100. Like, bar none, it goes basically to the other Razer BlackShark models or the Logitech G522. Believe it or not, the SteelSeries Nova 3 is surprisingly good, and the Astro A20X. But for the $99 and under tier, this is like class-leading stuff. Now, there is a mic noise cancellation function even on the $100 model that works surprisingly well. So I'm going to type on my keyboard because the noise cancellation is off, just so you can hear this. I don't type that aggressively. I'm not a baboon, but I want to turn mic noise cancellation on. And it noticeably cuts it out. Even if I type, it's a little bit more processed, but overall, it still does a really good job at rejecting some background noise. And on the note of the microphone performance, the microphone side tone is absolutely fantastic. I don't have to crank it. It goes up to 15. I'm only on 6 right now. And it has a really natural pass-through that sounds almost perfect. You can boost it a little bit more if I want to hear more background or more feedback for myself. But just keep in mind, if you boost it too high, you're going to introduce a little bit of white noise, so it's not perfect. Overall, though, I think this microphone sounds amazing. So now I'm talking to you on the $150 V3 microphone, and its comparable performance, I think in some cases the less expensive one sounds better, but only because this one has more processing. There's a different kind of chipset technology being used with this microphone, and as a result, the microphone is more sensitive. It's noticeably louder, and I also have a little bit of a robotic tone in my microphone side tone. So I think the actual side tone performance is better on the less expensive one. Now I'm talking to you with no noise enhancements enabled, and that's for 2 reasons. One is I actually have pretty messed up sound when I turn on the audio enhancement function for the output. So like if I'm trying to change the audio performance of games, such as sound normalization, bass boost, or voice clarity, if I enable that, it's on now, and it does make a good impact on games and things I'm listening to. It's a noticeable change, but I thought it actually made my voice sound more processed on the microphone side as well. Almost like leading and trailing tones can sound robotic. It may not be doing that now, but it's been doing that for me in the past. So I'm going to turn that back off. And when we look at the microphone settings for the V3, I get more stuff to choose from. I still get the mic noise cancellation function I can turn on. Right now it's off, so I'm going to start typing on this keyboard again. So you can hear how this performs with that turned off. If I turn on mic enhancement and mic noise cancellation, so that's on right now, it's a little bit more processed and it does reduce the volume in my voice. However, it does block all of this noise. Basically nothing there. In addition to having that function, you also have microphone EQ presets on the mid-tier models. So I'm talking to you on the default preset. You can naturally do custom. This is what I sound like with the esports preset. This is what I sound like on the broadcast preset. And this is what I sound like on the mic boost preset. And again, this is what I sound like on default.
Moving on into sound quality and starting with the measured side, which uses my rig. It's a Gross KB006X Pentaclone. You don't have to know what that is, but I always disclose what I'm using for measurements. They have a similar sound signature. They're not deviating from their house sound. And it's not perfect, but it's actually not as bad or egregious as some other headsets in this price range, both up from $100 to $150. So to be clear, I think the HyperX Cloud 3S at $160 has the best sound signature under $200 out of the box. It's amazingly well tuned. It just doesn't have some of the features of this, or naturally at $100, this still represents a good value. So some of the issues I have with the sound tuning is the peaks and dips that I get on the measurements can't fully be addressed by the 10-band EQ that Razer gives you. Overall, to describe the sound signature, it definitely still sounds very bassy and thick. It's a little bit too thick in the mid bass, and I am pleased to see that they tuned the treble down just a little bit. It doesn't have the same ear-piercing treble that I got at 8,000 hertz like their older models, so it's not perfect. And I don't want to say because it's a gaming headset, it gets a pass. I still think we have more room to grow here purely in the sound department out of the box. But I did make my own custom EQs. So if you want to adjust them to what I think is a more ideal sound signature, which I attuned for a mix of both FPS gaming and immersion. And because these sound slightly different, the EQ profiles are going to be different. These aren't major changes because of the way these peaks and dips are. I can't fully address it. But I feel like massaging the sound signature just a little bit for what I did with these really does make a big difference. As far as actual gaming performance goes, most of it was once I did my EQ, because I'll just be straight out of the box. I usually am not too crazy about how a lot of more affordable gaming headsets are tuned because I don't like overly thick bass. I play a lot of competitive FPS games and Arc Raiders, which you could argue is a very different play style. Loving that game lately. And the bass boost does help with immersion, but not so much that it sounds like thick and boomy. So I just tastefully reduced it. And once I did that EQ, these are surprisingly good for gaming because it's not just the comfort, it's obviously the sound quality and the mic and all that. But purely on the sound side, the one thing that stands out with less expensive models is they don't have the same detail retrieval and resolution as noticeably more expensive stuff, or even when you get to the $200 price point, like the Fractal Scape or the HyperX Cloud 3S, which is like, 160 to 180. Those just seem to extract a little bit more subtle detail, and they have a little bit more sub bass if you're chasing really deep bass. However, I feel that this does do a good balance of blending some of the immersive bass and overall is smooth enough mid-range where I feel like I'm still getting a lot of the details I care about. And it's not overly punishing on the treble. I don't find like overly sharp treble peaks, especially after some minor EQ. I think that goes a long way. So whether you're playing FPS games or not, these are still competitive enough where it's not going to prevent you from being a good player. EQ does go a long way, mainly in tabling off the bass. It's impactful, but you can tell it's just a less expensive headset. There's no special dampening inside. So if you boost that mid bass, you can kind of hear a resonance in the cups a little bit. That's common with all gaming headsets in this price range. It's not specific to them. I just, as a reviewer that also reviews $5,000 headphones, I don't want to ignore certain sound behaviors regardless of price. I personally like the way these perform though, again, especially after EQ, because they have a good balance of, I think, a lot of what gamers are going for. Now, I don't want to go too much down the audio path of just throwing a bunch of terms out there, but to quickly summarize is they did tune down the bass bloat compared to their older models, and I think the mid-range and treble tuning is a little bit better as well. I don't think it's perfect. I think, again, this price range could keep growing as far as tuning out of the box, but I understand they were going for something really immersive, and a lot of gamers are used to that really thick bass. I'm just not a super fan of it, and I think that once you tune some of that bass bloat out, it becomes one of the better options in this range because the voicing of it and overall comfort and functions as a headset tends to just be a good, complete overall package. If you're chasing pure detail retrieval, sub bass, etc., that's when you look at the HyperX Cloud S or the Fractal Scape, which are not much more, but believe it or not, lack a lot of the features these guys have. Having the ability to do full cross-platform support on even the X model at $100, work as a USB headset, with Bluetooth, chat mix, onboard EQ is pretty commendable. I think the value of this puts it as the top as far as one of the best things you can get for about $100 on the wireless side. At $150, the mid-tier V3 is a little bit harder of a sell just because you have a lot of great options, and this is still one of them because at $150 you're getting one of the best mics. Obviously the Astro A20X and Logitech G522 have wonderful mics as well. This has a little bit more warmth. Still very comfortable. The tuning I think is better on this out of the box than what you get with Logitech. It sounds much more robust and hefty on the sound, whereas the Logitech product sounds a little bit thinner and leaner. So I think when you factor in simultaneous chat, Bluetooth and chat mix, onboard EQ for the mic and the game, there's a lot to like at this $150 price point. Might not have the detail retrieval of some of the audiophile stuff out there, but for a good mid-tier option, I think Razer's done a pretty good job overall. I just wish I had those couple things I addressed earlier, like slightly thicker pads, etc. So to summarize, I think Razer did a really good job at both price points in their own ways, because when you factor in the overall sound signature, the feature set, the comfort, the microphone performance, etc., these are pretty good options to pick. It's not going to be for everybody, but I hope that after watching this, you found out if either of these are the right one for you, or if you're just watching just to come hang out. Thank you so much for checking out the channel. If you are new, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'd love to see you in some future videos. Stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.